Remember when we were talking about emphasis? And one of the ways that we create emphasis is to create a contrast. Is anybody wearing anything today that's particularly contrasting? Okay, Michael has a shirt on who has contrast in texture. So that makes his words stick out. You want to show everybody, Michael? Not really. Okay, he's got a shiny texture with a smooth texture, right? The shiny stands out. You could also say one of his fingers is being emphasized because it's green while the rest of them are not. So emphasis, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing this, but quite simply the definition is when elements are different. All right, so having lots of different elements in a composition expresses what? Or communicates. I want to use that word consistently. Communicates. And I'm going to give you an example. Okay, here's one. How is there a lot of different elements here? What element is there a lot of different shapes? Yes, there are how many kinds of shapes here? Can't even count them really. Okay, there's so many different kinds of shapes. What does this communicate? What kind of mood, what kind of feeling do you get when you look at this? Title of it is something on the 8-ball. Anybody see the 8-ball in there? All right, let's compare it then with this one, where there's very little contrast. It's just pretty much all green. And what's the difference in the mood here versus the mood here? Talk to your partners. I hear nothing. What kind of moods does this communicate? Talk to your partners. Talk out loud to your partners. Okay, I hear talking on this side of the room. This side of the room is rather quiet. Let's try it again. Talk to your partners. What's the mood? Okay, I'm getting a little more talk, so hopefully, what were some of the words you came up with? Brianna?
Chaos.
Chaotic, yes, good. All right, Grace?
Disorganized.
Disorganized, disorder. Kyler?
Huh? What did you say?
I'm asking what does it communicate when you have a variety of elements? What kind
Kind of
of
like
mood?
texture.
What What do you think's going on here? How do you think you'd feel if you were in this environment? Let's say you walk into this room today and it looks like this. What does it communicate?
Volume.
Pardon?
Volume.
Volume?
Volume, because everything's just moving and
Okay.
different textures.
So moving?
Yeah.
We could say that. Okay, it's or action maybe. Moving, action. Dylan. Is this a peaceful composition? Huh? Does this communicate peace and quiet to you? So what would it communicate? What does it communicate to you? Crazy? What? Shout out some things. What? Loud. Thank you. We got disordered, disorganized. Busy or not busy? Busy. Okay. Et cetera, et cetera. So you get a very different feeling, very different mood. This versus this, right? Okay, so the last part of this is to talk about the elements and how you can vary them. All right, so line you should know by now. Line is one of the elements. What are some of the various lines we could do? Curve, thank you.
Squiggles.
Zigzag, horizontal, vertical, diagonal. Sorry. Okay, and then we can vary them by texture, by we can make thin lines, thick lines, etc. So there's a million ways we can vary lines. So if we use all these different lines in a composition, it's going to communicate some of this stuff down here. Okay? What about shape? What are the different kinds of shapes we could make? Somebody say a triangle? And that would be what kind of shape?
Geometric.
Geometric, thank you. What else? Freeform. Thank you, Jensen. Okay? And of course you can vary the size of your shapes, the color of your shapes, all of these kind of overlap. What about color? How can we vary color?
Tints.
Yes, good. Intensity. So we can do bright colors and dull colors. How else? What's the other big way we can make a contrast in colors?
Shades.
Shades is going to be covered over here. Appreciate your participation more than you can imagine. Value, yeah, that's where the shades are. So you got light shades, which are tints, and dark shades, which are shades. How else do we differentiate color? Well, that's intent. Well, hue is like the bright color. Okay, so that's part of the intensity thing. If you look at, see if I can come up with an example. Maybe this will. What's the contrast here in colors? They're all pretty much the same value. They're all pretty much the same intensity. So how do they vary? What are the red and yellow called?
Opposites.
Red and green are opposites. Red, yellow, and orange are. Huh? What? Well, yes, and also trying to find an example for you here. What color sticks out the most here? Besides the black, we're not counting that as black as a color. Or what sticks out the most here? Anybody? Don't worry about being wrong.
Yellow.
Yellow, thank you. And what kind of color is that? Warm color or cool color? Warm color. Okay? So warm colors contrast with cool colors. Or you could also, another way of talking about it would be complements. Warm and cool. So same thing, because anytime you have a complement, you're going to have one warm color and one cool color. Did you know that? All right, that might have been new information. Okay, what about texture? How can you get contrast in texture? We already talked about that. How did Michael have contrast in his shirt? Shiny versus matte. Okay, those are opposites. And rough and smooth. Thank you. All right, so contrast expresses these things. It also is used, and we talked about it in our other notes, so I'm not going to talk about it today. It's also used to create emphasis. So when we want something to stick out, we will contrast it. So what's sticking out in this composition? Faces. Why? Yes, value. So that's an example where contrast. So contrast can be used a couple ways to communicate. This has a lot of, well, it has a lot of unity, but it has a lot of contrast too. So there's just a lot of pieces of a monster, but we see the different parts, and they're in different colors, and they're going in different positions. So you get a little more lively, crazy feeling here than, let me see if I can find another Escher one. This one is not quite so crazy, right? Nor is this one with the Pegasus. Okay, so guess what you're going to do for number 39? Composition using lots of contrast. So it should be chaotic, right? So I want to make it put as many colors, many lines, many shapes in here. It should just be crazy. All right, you can overlap. You can use different colors, you know, lots of different things. You could use different kinds of media. So maybe some of you have already done these on your pages where you just put all kinds of different things on it. And that's contrast, okay? And it should look chaotic. I'll write that down. Should appear chaotic. Like, what the heck's going on here? Just for your information, one of the things that Stuart Davis was trying to express in his work was jazz. He really liked jazz. Do any of you play jazz at all? Nobody? We don't have any jazz musicians in here? Well, sometimes, have you ever heard any jazz that you thought just didn't sound like music at all? It sounded crazy. I'll play some for you later, okay? And see if you think it's kind of chaotic, because there's so many different things going on in a piece of jazz music. Okay, we're gonna forge on. This is because I drew out and I don't want to get too much further behind. We're gonna do number 40. This is the absolute opposite of contrast. I couldn't think of the word there for a minute. And it's called unity. It's also referred to as harmony in your book. And I believe your definition is on page 296. You know what, I think I'll make another video for that one. I'll do two. Oh, it's not working.